Hey friends! Today I want to answer the question, is it ever time to just burn it all up and move on? And if so, how and when do we know? And I thought that this was such a great question because it's one that I've faced many times in my life. In fact, the story that came to mind is when I pulled down 7 years of content. And I did this back in, I guess it would have been 2016, early 2017. I made the decision to pull down all of my websites, all of my content, all my programs, all my offerings, and left up the design business information and a simple opt in, but pulled everything off the internet. It was not the smartest, most strategic decision in terms of what was best for growing my business, what was best for making money, what was best for me financially, but it is still to this day one of the absolute best, most powerful decisions I have ever made. And nobody agreed with me at the time. It was incredibly risky. It did cost me a lot. It cost me a lot in terms of even smaller things like ranking on Google and all of the incoming traffic that I had and things like that that led to more business and more clients and more people in my community. It did cost me business. It did cost me quite a bit of security and quite a bit of what I had built over 7 years of consistently creating and putting content out online. But I didn't make the decision. It wasn't a rash decision. It was something that I knew in my bones I had to do. I knew that it was not the best decision from a business perspective. My coach and mentor literally almost fell out of his chair when I told him about it. None of my friends understood. Very, very few people understood. But what I knew in my heart, in my bones, is that there was no way for me to move forward into what was next after everything that I had been through, my loss and trauma and all the healing I had been doing. If I didn't pull down what was old, I had to create the space to create something new. And it was a really, really challenging period. I talk about it in the Unravel book. But ultimately, it is how Call of the Void was born. It is the reason that I have the journey mapping program and the body of work that I have today that I love so much and that is really, truly impacting the lives of other people. That's why I have the Unravel book. Every time I tried to create something new and step into what was next, I couldn't because I felt held back by what I had created and who I had been for such a huge part of my life. And so I had to pull it all down. And this is a little different than what was asked in the Call of the Void group, which was how do you know when to leave a toxic situation and when to burn it all down and essentially risk everything. And for the first question, yes, there's absolutely times that we have to do this. Whether it is risking everything, leaving everything behind, letting ourselves fail at something, stepping out of relationships that no longer serve us, like literally just walking away from everything that we have built in our life, our career, our relationships. I do believe that there are times, not always, but there are times when that is absolutely essential in order for us to heal or grow or create what's next, or simply to get away from something that is not good for us. How do you know? Context and discernment. What is your situation? And what do you know is right and true for you? You have to have this deep level of trust in yourself and connection to your intuition and that deep inner knowing of this is no longer serving me, this is no longer working. It doesn't make any sense on paper. It doesn't make sense to anyone around me. No one supports it, no one understands, nobody can fathom why I would do this, and I am risking so much, and actively choosing to lose things is not an easy decision to make. And so we have to be really rooted in ourselves and our truth so that we know when it's time for us to make that change. No one can make that decision for you. It requires a hell of a lot of discernment and a ton of self-trust, and you really have to have your own back. To this day, many, many years later, several years later, my mentor, my friend, mentor, coach, still shakes his head when I talk about pulling down all that content. But it's what I had to do, and I did lose a lot, and I did risk a lot. In fact, I deleted thousands of people off my email list at the same time. Like, I just needed to do this huge purge. And sometimes we have to be willing to risk what is known and familiar, what feels safe and secure, risk everything that we have in order to step into what's next. And nobody can decide when that's the right time or how we should do it or what we do next. It's something that we have to navigate. And even if we are supported and we have people in our lives who are supporting us, nobody can actually take that action and make that change but you. So before you decide to burn it all down, it's really important that you are clear in your heart what is right for you, what is true for you, and you trust yourself to know when to make that change and have your own back through it, because people are going to push back. They're going to try and get you to go back to what it is that you left behind. And fear is going to come up, and fear is going to tell you that you just did the dumbest thing you ever could have done. And so you have to be ready to weather that and navigate that. And that comes back to self-trust, really knowing yourself, trusting your intuition, having your own back, and trusting that you are capable of coming through anything. You are capable of losing everything and still creating a successful, thriving life. But you have to believe that for yourself, and you have to be willing to go through the really hard, isolating, painful pockets and all the loss and all the rebuilding. It's not an easy thing to do, so you really have to have that foundational relationship with yourself first. If I can answer any questions about this related to specific situations, I'm happy to. We have the sampler content in the Call of the Void group up at the top in announcements. You guys can check that out if you need a little more support in rooting into yourself and what's true for you and really navigating the journey that you're on and being able to move into what it is that you want. So know that there are resources available to you. I am here. I'm happy to support. If I can answer any specific questions, let me know, and I will catch you guys soon in another video.